This is Harper, and you are listening to Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. We're just going to call it ZA Radio for short because the rest is a mouthful. But guess who found a solar powered radio station? I did. I can't believe it. And listeners, you're not going to believe this, but I found it through a dream. I dreamed this place, and then while I was awake, went there. And it was miraculously clear of zombies. I don't even know how. I don't even know how. Well, I think I might actually. Uh, Once I arrived, there was a notebook called Robert's Rules of Chaos, and it's a bunch of rules to follow during a zombie apocalypse. So thank you, Robert, for clearing out this radio station. And I say radio station, but there's one door to the entire place, unless you go out the roof access, right? Uh, it has a fully stocked kitchen. It has like a little cot. I guess sometimes the night DJs maybe spent the night here. It had more coffee than I have seen in probably 6 months. I cannot believe I dreamed this place and it was real. I just can't. To all of my other survivors out there, I hope that you have similar luck. Um, Survivor Radio. So anyway, my name is Harper. I'm alone. I'm alone. I don't want to dwell on that too much. Um, but yeah, I lucked out in finding this radio station, and I thought I would share my experiences. We're 3 to 6 months in, depending on how you chart time these days. I'm charting time based on when we all had the dream. Do you remember the dream? It happened before the first case of zombification happened, and it was wild. It was wild. The entire world had the same dream. I guess we should have known something was wrong then. But for me, my dream was very much the same as everyone else's. There's this giant shark. I can't see the shark. I just know it's there, and it's covered in pilot fish, just covered, almost like it's being devoured by the pilot fish, but it's not. Um, and it is at the very bottom of the ocean, and it's so dark, and it is so cold, and there's a rift in the bottom of the ocean, like a fissure, a hole, and the shark gets sucked into it along with all of the pilot fish. But for me, right before the shark gets sucked into this break in the ocean floor, for lack of a better phrase, I saw a piece of the shark's skin, just a tiny bit of gray, just a tiny bit of gray, and everything stopped. I feel like my heart stopped. I stopped breathing. My heart stopped beating. It felt like I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. And the cold and the pressure of being at the bottom of the ocean started to crush me. And one of the pilot fish swam over to me right before getting sucked into the rift, and it turned into this iridescent butterfly. And it wrapped its wings around me, and I was able to breathe again. My heart was able to beat again, and I woke up. And the next morning on the news, on talk shows, on talk radio, people kind of anecdotal were talking about the dream anecdotally, right? And that's when we all discovered, oh my God, we all had the same dream. And this dream was the only news almost that you could see for the next week. And then we all forgot about the dream because of the zombies. They started on the coast. Um, the West Coast and East Coast were first hit. New York fell so fast, so fast. They didn't even have time to quarantine it. By the time New York fell, I think they bombed all the exits. The amount of bridges we have lost to the zombie apocalypse is crazy, guys. It is crazy. Hope y'all can swim. Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm a little crazy at this point. I've been alone too long, so I'm a little funny. Um, so sorry about that. I apologize in advance for any Fruit Loop behavior. But I, uh, I I was scared of my dreams after the shark dream for a while, for quite a while. Yeah. But lately, my dreams have been showing me solutions. They've been showing me places to go. They've been showing me things to find that I might need. Like, guys, I am so well stocked on ammo. It is crazy. Um, I'm so well stocked on ammo, I can't even really carry it. I had to make 2 or 3 trips here. I have a little bike. I have a bicycle and I have a little bicycle trailer. I don't even know what you call it. It's a basket that attaches to the back. It has a couple wheels and I'm able to put a bunch of stuff on there. And let me tell you, in the last 6 months, my legs are strong. I have biked uphill, I have biked downhill, I have biked with ammo's heavy, man. And biking while dragging ammo is not fun. But I managed to cart all of my ammo here, managed to cart all of my supplies here. Luckily, I was not far away. By the time the dream showed me how to get here, it also showed me all of the areas, caches, I guess, of food, of ammo, of weaponry, that sort of thing. You know, when I was little, my dad taught me a little bit about how to shoot a bow and arrow, and I really wish I'd practiced more with that because guns are so loud. It just brings more zombies. And I don't know about you, but if there's more than 4 or 5 zombies together, I freeze. It's the same as the dream. It's the same as the dream. I freeze and I feel like I can't breathe. My heart stops. You know, it's I've never had freeze as part of my fight, flight, freeze response. And I am always just amazed at how complete and thorough it is. It's like my brain can't even work for a few seconds when I see 5 or more zombies together. And That's how I lost my family. We were in an evacuation camp, and it was, excuse me, pardon me. I don't even know if anybody's listening to this. I don't know why I'm apologizing for being emotional when I'm probably just screaming into the void. But we were at an evacuation camp, and and we were overrun. We were overrun, and you know, these evacuation camps, you think that you have military support, but I haven't seen any military personnel for like 3 months. You know, in those first 2 or 3 months, when the East Coast and West Coast were being overrun with zombies, we heard a lot about the military. But I think that the military got overrun too. The last 2 people I've seen in military vehicles were civilians who took them over, you know. But we were at an evacuation camp. We still we we had a few people there that were kind of like guards, but I'm pretty sure they were civilian volunteers to be guards. And they called it an evacuation camp, but we were there for about 3 weeks, and more people kept showing up, and nobody ever showed up to take us anywhere. And my sisters and my boyfriend, their husbands, their kids, we were all there, and I was trying to convince us to leave. I was trying to convince everybody that we should strike out on our own. Um, but everybody still believed that the government was coming to save them. Everybody still believed the government survived, you know, so I couldn't convince them to leave. And I think if I had been more certain that leaving was the right idea, I would have argued harder. But I'm known to be impatient. You know, people are like, Harper, slow down. Harper, think this through. Harper, you've got to take a breath. You know, you can't just go, go, go. You can't just run, run, run. And I listened, and I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have, because I lost all of them. Yeah, yeah, they're all gone. They're all just, and it was the fear. It was that freezing fear. I saw the zombies, and I couldn't even yell a warning. I froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't even in my brain scream to myself, unfreeze, you fool. Move, do something. Everything was just locked up. And it was only for about 5 or 10 seconds, but that was long enough. That was long enough. And the zombies came through, and I was only I was only able to survive because Mitch shoved me to safety. Thanks, Mitch. Miss you, man. Anyway, so that evacuation camp became overran. I ran once Mitch shoved me and broke me out of the freeze. I ran and I ran and I ran and I never looked back. But he shoved me and then screamed. So I know he was bitten. And if I weren't such a coward, I'd go back and I'd make sure that they were all killed. But I like to think of it as, them resting in peace. If I could go back, I would, but by the time I thought to go back, nobody was there. So I'm sure they're just part of a horde somewhere, devouring the rest of humanity. This got dark. I'm so sorry. I was actually trying to do this as a way to um, maybe instill some hope, maybe give some tips and some tricks, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I personally am just still in shock about how much I don't know about living. Um, you know, none of us know how cell phones work unless you're, somebody who put together cell phones, and cell phones don't work anymore anyway. So that's a moot point. But I'm talking about, like, I know how to catch a fish and clean it and cook it, but I don't know how a lot of other things work, just basic survival work stuff. So, one of the nice finds here was a complete set of the Foxfire books, which they have all kinds of information on how to do things, how to survive off of the land, and that type of thing. And I'll say, does anybody else find it really, really weird that the zombies have no interest in eating anything other than us? Because I find it weird. I find it a little troubling. I find it a little bizarre, you know. I loved zombie movies and zombie TV shows prior to all this. Um, and in those, the zombies devoured everything in their path, you know. Hunting was always very scarce because the zombies would eat everything. If it was meat, they would eat it. And the zombies, I've seen zombie packs from afar, um, being chased by dogs. I've seen them with vultures coming down and, you know, kind of eating them. Vultures are hungry too. And the zombies don't even try to stop them, you know? And their flesh doesn't make the vultures sick. Um, it doesn't make the dogs turn into dog zombies. So I just find it really, really weird. And it doesn't it doesn't behave like a virus. It's supposed to be the zombie virus. It's supposed to be something that devours everything in its path, but it doesn't behave that way. I've met up with groups of survivors here and there, and I know back in the day we would always be like, oh, it's just gossip, but we don't have news anymore. It's there's no newspapers. There's the radio show I used to listen to went off the air about a month or two ago. And I haven't found another one since. So gossip's kind of all we have to go on. And there was one group that I met. They were really nice, but they were headed to Oregon, and you couldn't pay me to go to a coast at this point. You really couldn't because the coasts fell first and the cities are pretty much zombie cities now. So no, I wasn't going to go with them, but I did spend, we camped that night in some old house that still had supplies in it. And they talked about one of their, her name was Valerie, and her sister, whose name I do not remember. I am so sorry, Valerie, if you're listening to this, that I can't remember your sister's name, but my brain isn't working as well as it used to. Too many shocks too often, I guess. But Valerie was telling me how she and her sister were traveling solo, and they were 3 weeks without seeing a single zombie or a single person. But when they did, they found a community. Well, I don't know if it was a community or like a temporary camp, but they found a group of about 20, 30 people. And the second they were in that group, the second Valerie's sister turned zombie, and it was bad. Now, about half of that group survived, but Valerie just could not believe it because they were never out of each other's sight, and there are stories of people who were bitten and turned within seconds, but this is the first time I have heard of anyone being bitten and it took 3 weeks to turn. And my fellow survivors, I quizzed her. I asked all of the questions, like, well, maybe she got bit, sometime when she was out of your sight. And she was like, no, part of our survival strategy was, they were even going to the bathroom in front of each other, not to be too graphic or gross, but, she wasn't out of her sight. The last time that she hadn't had eyes on her sister was when their group was overrun by a small horde, 15, 20 zombies. I know that we're hearing stories now of hordes that are in the hundreds and thousands. I don't even want to know what kind of hordes are happening in New York City or in LA. I mean, they must be in the millions. They must be in the millions. But anyway, so if it's a virus, it has an incubation period, right? It takes a while. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a doctor. I was a liberal arts major, for God's sakes. But I will say that, I do know how a virus is supposed to work, and there's a finite incubation period for it, 24 hours, something like that. And it's usually kind of uniform, within certain parameters. And a zombie bite doesn't seem to react that way. A zombie bite, from what I've heard, and again, I cannot attest to the veracity of this because it is hearsay. It is what I have heard secondhand. Now, it's what I've heard secondhand from firsthand survivors, but still, that game of telephone, even one removed, you're going to get things wrong, even when you're trying to be accurate. So it doesn't act like a virus. And the fear that I feel when there's more than 5 or 6 together, that doesn't feel natural to me. All right. So I probably lost y'all when I started about finding this place through a dream. So, in for a penny. uh, I've been in haunted places before. I've been in places where there were malevolent forces at play. Those places you go into and it just feels bad to be there. I've been in those places, and I've got to say, the fear feels like that. The fear feels like somebody has, I don't know, put their hand on my head and they're not letting me move anywhere. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I am gripped by an otherworldly force that keeps me in place and scares me down to my marrow. Um, and the thing is, I keep thinking I will adjust, you know. We all have those, and forgive me, but I was a role player back in the day. But you know that horror factor, right? Where sometimes you have a horror factor where you can't move your body, you can't do anything because you're so horrified at this new terror that you're seeing. But the zombies aren't new anymore. It's been 6 months, and 6 months since the dream, 3 months since the first city fell. So again, it depends on how you're calculating how you're calculating the time. We are year ZA0, I guess, and will be for the next 6 to 9 months, depending on how you count things. But it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't. It doesn't go away. It happens still every single time. And I have been very, very fortunate that even though I'm traveling alone, the times since the evacuation center that I have had to deal with this has been few and far between, and the zombies have been far away. And they haven't been fast. Um, the fast zombies are the worst because I am not a runner, folks. I am not a runner, and the fast zombies are definitely not my friend. Um, but luckily, the zombies I've been seeing lately have usually been loners, stragglers. I'm in rural Illinois, southern Illinois, and I know everybody thinks Illinois thinks Chicago. I'm about a 6 hour drive away from Chicago, maybe seven. Illinois is a very, very long state, and I'm in the southern end of it, where there's quite a bit of forest, not quite as many people. And, I think some of these people in this area evacuated early. They had enough time to evacuate because, like, we knew what was happening. We knew what was happening. Um, but, I was evacuated from a city center, so it doesn't matter. What the point is, I don't know about any of the rest of you, but this feels to me like malevolent evil and not a virus. And, maybe that is just my brain's way of processing what's really not processed. I I don't even know how to define it. This might just be my brain's way of dealing. My brain's way of processing losing everybody I love. My brain's way of letting me know, yeah, yeah, this is evil. This is evil at work. Because even if it was a virus, it's a pretty evil virus. It's mean spirited, and I thought COVID was, I thought COVID was mean spirited, but if this is a virus, COVID's got nothing on it because it is it is really a scary one, really a scary one. So, but I want to say that, if you're having dreams that are telling you, hey, go here, go there, maybe listen to them. I've been listening to these dreams for about 3 months, and they have not led me astray. If I were more confident in those dreams, I would have been able to convince my family to leave the evacuation center. I would have been able to make a better argument, but I didn't know that the dreams were giving me real information. How wild is that? Um, but at any rate, so one of the things I found here is a notebook, that had some very helpful tips on how to make a broadcast. Now, I know this is very bare bones. There's no bells and whistles. I don't have any music. I don't have any sound effects. Depending on where you're listening, zombies are so attracted to sound. It's probably best that I don't. But all of the morning DJs would have all kinds of different sound effects and fun things. And I apologize, but I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. I basically followed Robert's Rules of Chaos, his notebook, to get the radio to work because I figured I could share some of my experience, I could share some of my knowledge. But I'm going to leave us with the first rule of Robert's Rules of Chaos. And this is clearly something he wrote after being out in the world of zombies for a while. And the first one is zombies can't turn a doorknob. If you have a home that you are leaving, that you are evacuating, don't lock the door. Shut every door, everywhere, all of the time. If there are zombies on the other side, try to mark it somehow with a Z. Try to, if you have chalk, just put a big Z on the door if there's zombies inside. If it's clean, maybe put an X or a C or a clear on there. But chalk, spray paint, whatever you have. If there are zombies inside, try to warn the next person. But there have been a lot of structures. Now, this is Robert's rules saying this, not me. So if it's not true, blame Robert. But from the zombie movies and TV shows I've seen, I have to agree with this assessment. If you shut doors, keeping zombies out, you're keeping the place clear for the next human. And, we may travel for days at a time and not see another person, but that doesn't mean there aren't people out there. There are. I have to believe there are. And we're all on the run right now, but humans are herd animals. We are going to rebuild. We will make new communities. We will figure out a way to live in this world because that's what we do. Humans adapt. And, well, humans adapt or we die. And please don't take that to mean that everybody who has died hasn't adapted. That's not what I'm saying at all. At all. I'm saying as a species, we can either adapt to this or we can die out, and this can just be a zombie world with a lot of animals, But the point is, make sure you're shutting doors behind you. Make sure that you're keeping in mind that other people exist and that they will need a shelter. They will need a place to hide. They will need a place to go. So keep the doors shut but unlocked. And also, if you encounter a door that is locked, don't break it in such a way that it can't be fortified for the next person, If it is a 2-story, try to figure out a way to climb up onto the 2nd story if you absolutely have to break a window. But I'm going to say there are quite a few neighborhoods and quite a few places where people don't even lock their windows, or it's real easy to jimmy that lock. So Robert's rules is basically saying keep all doors shut so you are creating safe havens for the next person. So anyway, that is all I have for today. There is music. Debating on whether I should broadcast music or not, because, and when I say music, there's vinyl here that I can play. Now, do I know how to play the vinyl in such a way that it's broadcast? No. But Robert's notebook here has notes, so I may be able to figure it out. I don't know. But most of my time is honestly spent fortifying this place and making sure that I have plenty of food. We're coming up on winter, and I kind of feel like maybe stockpiling is the right way to go. Luckily, I'm in a rural area, and there are a lot of farms around, and there's a lot of animal life around, so I'm optimistic. But I'm going to read these Foxfire books. I'm going to read Robert's notebook, and I'm hopefully going to have some more stories for you in the future about the zombie apocalypse and different ways and different things you can do to survive. I'll also tell you a little bit more about my journey here. So, anyway, thank you for listening to ZASR, Zombie Apocalypse Survivor Radio. This is Harper, your clueless DJ. Thanks so much, everyone. And stay alive. Stay alive. We will rebuild. Okay? Stay alive. Even if you're alone, you won't be alone for long. We will rebuild. And I tell you this with certainty because I saw it in a dream. And if I can see a solar powered radio station across from a vocational college in a dream, and it be true, then I think the communities I'm seeing in our future are true too. So we all just need to adapt. We all just need to adapt and deal with our PTSD. You know, we're the zombie generation now, for better or for worse. All right, this is Harper saying goodbye and survive, survive, survive.